Welcome to Passport to Sleep, a calming journey through real places and dreamy escapes. Let's begin tonight's story. The ferry slides into Santorini just after midday, the hull vibrating gently beneath our feet. For a long moment, the island remains almost aloof, towering above us. A jagged crescent of cliffs rising sheer from the sea, layered in burnt umber and black lava stone. Their tops crowned with clusters of white buildings like snow that refuse to melt. The water here is deep, endless blue. Darker than any we have seen before, shimmering like polished glass under the high sun. The ferry's engines rumble lower as we approach the port of Athenios, a small strip of activity wedged between towering cliffs. Trucks and taxis wait in lazy rows, and the smell of salt and diesel mixes with the sharp perfume of hot stone. We disembark with the slow, unhurried shuffle of travellers who know that in Santorini, the world moves to the rhythm of sea and sun, not clocks. A driver greets us with a simple nod, and we pile into a van that feels instantly too small for the heat of the day. The road from the port zigzags up the face of the cliffs, a dizzying series of switchbacks that seem carved by stubborn hands into the volcanic rock. Each curve lifts us higher. Each glance back reveals more, the ferry shrinking below us, toy-sized against the vastness of the caldera, the water a deeper, more secret blue. And then at the top the world opens wide, white buildings gleam against the sky. Narrow paths twist and twine among them, steps carved directly into the rock. The island slopes gently upward from the cliffs into low hills, spotted with vineyards and fig trees, dry stone walls and tiny blue-domed chapels. We arrive in Fyra, the capital, a small glittering city stitched to the very edge of the world. Our hotel is tucked along a footpath, no wider than two people walking shoulder to shoulder. A small brass sign, half hidden by bougainvillea, marks the entrance. Inside, the air cools, thick stone walls, the faint scent of lemon oil, a smiling woman who hands us real keys and speaks the welcome in Greek that feels more like a blessing than a transaction. Our room is a cave room, literally carved into the cliffside, with cool whitewashed walls and arched ceilings. The windows are small, but open wide onto a private terrace that spills straight into the sky. And the view. The caldera yawns before us, vast and almost unreal. The cliffs curve away to the north and south, dotted with houses that gleam like pearls. Below, the sea is a living, breathing thing, dark sapphire in the depths, bright turquoise where the sun catches the shoals near the rocks. Across the water, the volcanic islands of Nea Kameni and Palea Kameni float, black and bare, reminders of the fire that shaped this place. We stand there for a long time, just breathing it in. The sun is high and the air is rich with heat and the faint smell of dust and thyme. Somewhere below, a church bell chimes, its notes soft and slow, folding into the sound of the breeze. Eventually, hunger draws us back to the living world. We wander upward through the winding alleys of Fyra, where the buildings seem to lean inward against the heat, their flat rooftops and rounded doorways glowing in the afternoon sun. Shops sell everything from hand-painted ceramics to bottles of wine, from grapes grown in the island's volcanic soil. Cafes spill their tables out onto small patios draped with vines. Bougainvillea in riotous pinks and purples tumbles over every ledge. We stop at a small taverna, where the smell of grilling fish drifts out into the street. Lunch is simple and perfect, a Greek salad piled high with tomatoes so ripe they taste like sunshine. Slabs of creamy feta dusted with oregano. Cucumbers so crisp they snap with each bite. Grilled octopus arrives on a plate, slick with olive oil, charred just enough to taste of smoke and salt. We wash it down with a carafe of cold, sharp white wine, a Certico, born from the volcanic ash under our feet. Afterward, we walk without any real plan. The alleys narrow and widen unpredictably. Every turn reveals a new view, the glittering sea framed by a blue door, a cat curled in a patch of sun, a small chapel where candles flicker behind stained glass windows. The scent of baking bread and roasting lamb drifts from unseen kitchens. We wander upward toward Firostefani, a quieter part of town just north of Fyra. Here the cliff paths are narrower, quieter. The houses are simpler, more lived in. The world feels less like a postcard and more like a secret. We find a bench carved into a low wall and sit, watching the light shift across the water. The caldera isn't still, it changes with every hour. Clouds drift and pull their shadows across the sea. The sun strikes the cliffs at new angles, turning them first gold, then rose, then deep umber. In the late afternoon, the light thickens, grows heavy and honey-coloured. We make our way back toward Fira, moving slowly now, every stone stair and every narrow alley, feeling like part of some slow, sacred ritual. Dinner waits for us at a restaurant tucked into the cliffs, where the tables are set along a terrace so narrow it feels almost part of the sky. We sit with our backs to the white wall, the whole caldera yawning open before us, and order slowly, tzatziki with warm pita, lamb souvlaki kissed by the grill, a basket of olives gleaming like black pearls, and wine, always the wine, sharp and cool and tasting of stone and salt and sun. The food is delicious, but the sunset is the real feast. It begins slowly, almost shyly. First the sky turns the colour of ripe peaches, then pink bleeds into lavender, into gold, into a deepening blue that pulls the sea up into the sky until the two are indistinguishable. The cliffs burn gold, then blush, then fade into silhouettes. Across the caldera, the volcanic islands are swallowed one by the dark. The lights of Oya flicker into being far to the north, like a necklace of tiny stars draped across the cliff tops. The air cools, the candles flicker on the tables. The low murmur of conversation falls away into a shared reverence. No one speaks much during a Santorini sunset. There's a hush that falls, a stillness that feels ancient, older than memory. As the last edge of the sun slips away, the crowd at the terrace lets out a collective breath. Not a cheer, not applause. Just a long, slow exhale. Like the island itself breathing in sleep. We linger long after the plates have been cleared, sipping the last of the wine, watching the stars sharpen above the black mouth of the caldera. When we finally leave, the streets of Fira are quieter, bathed in the soft golden pools of lamplight. We wander back toward our hotel slowly, our sandals scuffing softly against the stone. A small gelato stand still glows open at the corner of a narrow lane. Without a word, we stop. 2 cones, 1 lemon, sharp and clean, 1 pistachio, rich and nutty. We eat them as we walk, the night wrapping around us like a soft cloak. The path to our hotel hugs the edge of the cliff, the sea invisible now but still somehow present, a vast, breathing darkness that hums at the edge of hearing. Back on our terrace, we sit one last time before bed, wrapped in blankets against the rising chill. The island sleeps around us. The caldera holds its secrets in silence, and we fall asleep to the slow, steady breath of the Aegean Sea, a lullaby older than time. The morning finds us early. A pale blush stretches across the sky outside our window, softening the edges of the cliffs and rooftops, the caldera still wrapped in the blue haze of dawn. The sea below breathes steadily, slow and endless, a vast mirror catching the first hints of light. We rise quietly, drawn by the hush of the island as it stirs awake. Outside the air is cool, kissed with salt and the faintest scent of sun-warmed stone. The marble streets of Fira shine faintly under the early light, and the town feels secret and hushed, as if we have slipped into a chapter no one else has opened yet. Breakfast waits at a small terrace cafe near the cliff edge. We sit under a striped awning while the sun climbs higher, warming the stone at our feet. The table is bright with simple treasures, a thick Greek yogurt drizzled with wild honey and dusted with walnuts, slices of sweet melon and figs bursting with juice, warm bread with sharp feta, and black olives gleaming, like stones plucked from the sea. We eat slowly, letting the morning settle into our bones. Today, we set sail. Down at the old port of Scala Fira, the ferry boats bob impatiently against the dock. We take the cable car down the cliff to reach them, the car rattling softly on its thin wire, the view tilting and unfolding with each second. Steep staircases carved into the rock, donkeys picking their way carefully up and down, the flat gleam of the sea waiting below. The port is a jumbled, cheerful place, small tavernas, souvenir shops hung with woven baskets and coral jewellery, the salty tang of the sea heavy in the air. Our boat is a low-slung wooden vessel, painted bright blue and white, its sides worn soft by sun and salt. The captain, a broad-shouldered man with a battered straw hat, ushers us aboard with a wave. We push off into the caldera with a soft chugging sound, the cliffs of Santorini rising sheer and monumental behind us, layered in shades of ochre and ash. The boat moves slowly, slicing a trail of foam across the water, the wind tugging playfully at our hair. Ahead, black volcanic islands rise from the sea. We see Nea Kameni, barren and brooding. And beyond is Pelea Kameni, smaller and greener, both born from ancient fire. We dock at Nea Kameni and step ashore onto another world. The earth is rough underfoot, sharp black pumice and crumbling red rock, the sun glinting off twisted veins of iron ore. A faint scent of sulfur hangs in the air, not unpleasant, just a reminder that the island still breathes, still steams quietly beneath its crust. The path winds upward over the lava fields, dust rising with every step. There's a strange, beautiful silence here, broken only by the crunch of footsteps and the low hum of insects sheltering among the stones. As we climb, the view expands, the white ribbon of Santorini's towns curling along the cliffs, the endless sea pulsing far below, the distant islands floating in and out of focus like memories. At the summit, we stand before a vent where steam rises steadily into the sky, hot, damp, faintly metallic. The earth around it is cracked and warm to the touch. We sit on a sun-warmed rock sipping water, feeling the heartbeat of the island under our palms. It's humbling to think that once, long ago, this same caldera exploded with such force that the shape of the world shifted. Civilizations ended. Legends were born. Even now, the island is not done becoming. Back on the boat, the captain turns us toward Pelea Kameni, where the hot springs wait. The water near the shore changes colour, from deep blue to rusty orange, from emerald green to milky turquoise. A living map of minerals stirred into the sea. We drop anchor a little offshore, and the captain calls out with a grin, "Swim to the hot springs!" The water is shockingly cold at first, a gasp that pulls the breath from our lungs. But as we swim closer to the shore, it warms, subtly at first, then more surely, wrapping around us like a living thing. The smell of sulphur grows stronger, earthy and primal. We float on our backs, watching the cliffs of Santorini bask in the noon sun, the sky above impossibly blue, the world rocking gently beneath us. It feels like floating inside a story older than memory. We linger long after our fingers wrinkle, letting the warm currents buoy us. Eventually, the boat pulls us back to the old port, and the cable car whisks us upward once more, the island unfolding beneath our feet like a slow-moving wave. Back in Fira, the streets are livelier now, sun hats and cameras and sandals everywhere. But we weave our way through with a practiced slowness, seeking the shade of narrow alleys and the quiet hum of hidden cafes. Lunch finds us in a shaded courtyard, tucked behind a blue-painted door, where the tables are set under a canopy of grapevines. We order mezza plates to share, grilled halloumi cheese squeaking between our teeth, dolmades wrapped tight and fragrant, hummus whipped silky smooth, and a basket of bread still warm from the oven. We linger over glasses of lemonade, sweetened with thyme honey, the condensation running down our fingers, the world slowing to the pace of island life. The afternoon drifts by. When the shadows stretch long across the stones, we catch a small bus northward toward Oia, the crown jewel of Santorini. The road winds along the spine of the island, offering glimpses of vineyards clinging to the rocky soil, of tiny churches perched like white birds on hilltops, of the endless breathing sea on either side. And then suddenly we arrive. Oia is a maze of white and blue, a place where every corner looks like a painting, every alley like a secret. We wander without map or aim, letting the town unfold around us. Narrow paths climb and dip, lined with shops selling hand-painted ceramics, linen dresses that flutter like sails, bottles of wine corked in dusty glass. Cats lounge on sun-warmed ledges, blinking slowly. Artists set up easels in hidden courtyards, their canvases bleeding with colour. The air smells of salt and fig trees, of baking stone and sweet pastry. We find a bookshop burrowed into a cave, its shelves crowded with Greek poetry and travelogues. A tiny rooftop garden above offers a view across the domes and chimneys, the sea sprawling wide beyond. The bells of a church ring out low and mournful, rolling down the alleys like the memory of a hymn. We find a cafe perched at the edge of the world and order iced coffees, thick, sweet, bracing, and sip them slowly, watching the sun lower itself with deliberate grace toward the water. As sunset nears, the whole town migrates toward the western tip, toward the ruins of the old castle. The stone walls fill with people, travellers and locals alike, all silent, all waiting. The air itself seems to hold its breath. The sun hovers, huge and molten, just above the horizon. It bathes the cliffs in gold, then rose, then the soft, aching blue of twilight. The white walls of Oya catch the last light like lamps. The domes blaze cobalt against a sky turning to liquid amber. The sea mirrors it all, rippling with molten light. For a long moment, the world is a still pool of colour and breath. Then the sun kisses the sea and vanishes. A collective sigh rises from the cliffs, a soft exhale of wonder and gratitude. No clapping, no noise, just awe. Just the slow, grateful breath of hundreds of souls watching the day end. We linger in the twilight. The streets glow with lanterns and laughter now, the cafes filling with the scent of grilled lamb and cinnamon and wine. We find a small taverna, tucked behind a low stone wall, lit with fairy lights strung through olive branches. Dinner is simple, plates of lamb slow cooked until it falls apart under the fork, baked tomatoes stuffed with herbs and rice, and a carafe of the island's sharp white wine. Dessert is baklava dripping with honey, and a tiny glass of raki to chase it down. We eat slowly, every bite a hymn to this place, this day, this small, shining piece of the world. The walk back through Oya is soft and slow, the stars burn overhead. The sea whispers against the cliffs far below, and the village glows, not with electricity, but with something deeper, something older. A light stitched into its stones by centuries of sun and salt and human hope. We drift to sleep that night with the smell of thyme on our skin, the taste of honey on our tongues, and the colours of the sunset still blooming behind our closed eyes. Morning arrives slowly over Santorini. The light is tender, almost shy, slipping over the edge of the caldera and flooding the white walls with a soft, pearly glow. The sea is a sheet of silver below us, ruffled only by the slow breath of the breeze. We wake without alarm clocks, without urgency, just the pull of another day beginning, soft, golden, inevitable. After dressing, we make our way to breakfast, climbing the narrow steps to the small rooftop terrace above the hotel. The table is already set, slices of warm bread, thick slabs of goat cheese drizzled with local thyme honey, figs so ripe they split open with a touch, and tiny pots of sharp, strong coffee. We eat slowly, watching the island stretch itself awake, shutters thrown open, linen flapping in the morning breeze, the faint clink of dishes from the cafes setting up for the day. Today feels different, not hurried, not grand. Today feels like a soft exhale, a day for lingering, for remembering, for letting the island write itself into us one last time. After breakfast, we set out southward, following the curve of the island away from the cliffs and deeper into the dry, stony heart of Santorini. The land changes as we drive, from bright white villages clinging to cliffs to stretches of dusty fields crisscrossed with low stone walls, where grapes grow low to the ground in coiled baskets to shield them from the relentless wind. The air smells of dust and thyme, sharp and clean. In the distance, the sea always waits, a low constant shimmer on the horizon. Our first stop is a place where the past still breathes, the ruins of Akrotiri. We pull up to a low modern structure built to shelter the ancient site, its broad roof shading the treasures underneath from the fierce Greek sun. Inside, the air is cooler, still carrying the faint scent of dry earth. We step onto wooden walkways suspended above the ruins, and the story of the island opens below us. Akrotiri was once a thriving Minoan city, paved streets, multi-story houses, pottery shops, shrines, until one day, sometime around 1600 BC, the volcano exploded. The city was buried under meters of ash, frozen in time, preserved in astonishing detail. We walk slowly, leaning over railings to peer into ancient doorways where frescoes once bloomed in brilliant colours, past pottery jars bigger than we are, past narrow alleyways that once echoed with footsteps like ours. It's easy to imagine life here, merchants setting out baskets of olives and fish, children chasing each other through the dusty streets, women singing as they ground grain into flour. We move quietly, reverently, as if the walls themselves are still listening. It feels intimate, sacred, a whisper from another world carried forward on waves of ash and stone. When we step back out into the sun, the light is almost blinding, the present rushing back in a bright, hot rush. But part of us stays behind, held in the silent rooms of Akrotiri, stitched into the deep story of this place. A short drive farther brings us to another face of Santorini, one raw and wild and utterly different. We park near Red Beach, where towering cliffs of iron-red volcanic stone plunge into waters of impossible blue. The path to the beach is rough and narrow, cutting across loose stone and sharp rock. We move carefully, the ground crumbling slightly underfoot. But when we round the final bend and see the beach spread out below us, it takes our breath away. The red cliffs burn under the sun, the sand below glows dark and warm, the water, clear, deep, eternal, laps gently at the shore, scattering flashes of turquoise and cobalt where the light strikes. We pick our way down to the beach and find a flat rock near the water's edge. Shoes off, toes buried in the coarse, rust-coloured sand, we sit and watch the sea move, soft and endless. The cliffs rise high behind us, sheltering the cove in a kind of ancient volcanic hush. The air smells of salt and hot stone. It feels like sitting at the edge of the world. After a while, hunger calls us back to life. We leave Red Beach and make our way toward Parissa, on the other side of the island. Here the beach is wide and long, the sand a deep, rich black, so born of the island's volcanic bones. Rows of thatched umbrellas line the shore, shading low lounge chairs. Beach cafes spill music and laughter into the air, their tables bright with plates of grilled seafood and cold drinks sweating in the heat. We find a spot under an umbrella, the thatch rustling softly overhead, and sink into chairs still warm from the morning sun. Lunch is a feast of simplicity, calamari flash-fried until crisp and tender, tzatziki thick with cucumber and mint, slabs of watermelons so sweet they taste like sunlight, and tall glasses of ouzo mixed with ice and water, turning milky white in the heat. We eat barefoot, grains of black sand clinging to our ankles, the sound of the waves folding around our conversation. Afterward, we swim, the water cool and heavy with salt buoying us effortlessly. The black sand sparkles under the water, like scattered stars. We float on our backs, eyes closed, the sun a bright weight on our faces. And for a little while we are weightless and timeless, just salt and breath and sky. The afternoon drifts by. We dry in the sun, the heat baking the salt into our skin, the breeze drying our hair into wild, soft tangles. We sip cold coffees at the beach bar, watching the waves eat and rebuild the shore, watching the world go on. As the sun begins to sink once more, we head back across the island toward Immersive, the highest point along the caldera's edge. Here the crowds thin, the pace softens, the cliffs stretch away in long, elegant curves. We walk through quiet paths lined with small hotels and blue-domed chapels, the walls gleaming white against the gathering shadows. The village is almost silent. The only sounds are the crunch of our footsteps on stone, the low sigh of the wind, the faint clink of glasses from a terrace somewhere above. We find a spot at the very edge, a low wall overlooking the endless breathing sea. The sky is already painting itself again, molten gold at the edges, bleeding into rose, deepening into the soft indigo of night. The lights of Fira blink into life along the cliffs behind us. Tiny boats leave silver trails across the water below. The first stars prick through the velvet above. We sit there, arms brushing, legs dangling over the drop. No cameras, no rush. Just the slow folding of day into night, the slow stitching of memory into bone. The breeze smells of salt and stone, of time and something sweeter, perhaps the memory of all the nights that have ever fallen here before. We sit until the last glow fades, until the first coolness of night drapes itself across our shoulders. Until we are sure the island has told us everything it wants us to know. Dinner is a quiet affair, at a small taverna tucked into the cliffside. Grilled lamb with rosemary, a salad bright with capers and lemon, a loaf of warm bread split open to reveal its fragrant heart. A bottle of wine, the last of the trip, crisp and golden as the afternoon we just lived. We eat slowly, talking softly, the words falling into the night like pebbles into the sea. When we finish, we wander once more through the sleeping village, the stones cool now under our feet, the sky above heavy with stars. We stop at a small chapel perched at the very edge of the cliff. Its bell hangs silent in the stillness. Its doors are closed, but its heart feels open. We sit on the low steps and breathe in the night, and we say goodbye, not with words, but with silence, with breath, with the quiet, endless knowing that some places, some days, do not leave you when you go. They stay. They shape you. They become a part of whatever it is you are still becoming. That night we sleep with the window open. The sea breathes against the cliffs below. The stars wheel slowly across the sky. And Santorini folds itself into our dreams, soft and sure and endless. We hope you enjoyed this journey. Please follow us for more destinations, and don't forget to leave a review. It helps others find a peaceful place to drift off to. We'd also like to remind you that information in this episode may become outdated. Please verify with your own research if you plan on traveling to any of these lovely destinations. Until next time.